If you don't watch this entire video, I will fight your mom. But if you do, you will know how to paint better skin tones and a whole lot faster. It is currently 2 o'clock and I would like to throw my kids at a pancake later, so I'm giving myself 3 hours to get this done, which proves the fast part. Painty! Wait, I need to put things to hold it. So I guess now that I've set the timer, I actually have to panic about the time. Obviously, I have prepared quite a bit of this stuff, except for I have not put the primers on this. That is because this printed like a bit of a poo-poo, so I had to print it again. And now I am stuck with no time to do these things. So I'm going to put some holders on these models so I can get the primer on it. And while this primer dries, I can quickly paint the base. Although I do need to drill this, which... Woo! That's going to be fun. For some reason, the drill just did not sit in the center of my drilling device. And so it was obviously a dangerous event, but nevertheless, it happened and it worked and no one died. So I can quickly move on to putting primer. I used Kaleido primer for priming everything, and I primed it all in black first because I need to get some depth out of it. So I will put a white Zenithal later.
And the balance.
I didn't realize that Murphy's Law would kick in and start to attack me from the beginning of this challenge. I think I just broke my ankle. And this is why your mother says not to run in the house. I didn't like that.
So we're less than 10 minutes in and you've already sustained an injury.
Yes, Frankie, I had. I needed to make sure that I wasted absolutely no time, and so I proceeded to think about what colors I should use. Also, we have this very important book that we found in the shop somehow, and it kept distracting me.
Isn't that timer for something?
Oh yes! I cannot find, so this is part of the problem, is that I can't find the actual paint in the right timing, and then that's going to cause... There it is right there. I don't know what you're trying to start painting, but I can't because that thing is there. So I'm going to have to show you the color here.
Okay.
Which you can't see because it's probably out of focus.
No, that's fine. Violet grey.
Violent?
Yeah.
What I'm about to do is quite violent. Always hurts so much to dry brush, and I don't understand why. It literally hurts, bro. I just want to put a disclaimer that paint at your own risk, because the older you get, the more it hurts. Just trying to get it in all of the crevasses and the angles. Oh my god, it hurts so much. Maybe might have taken all of the energy needed for painting the model on just doing a dry brush.
Your chair is making so much noise.
I know, it started doing that recently.
Glad to see we've already started another side quest.
Yeah. I mean, it's not pissing you off, because it's pissing me off. And in true Groundeffected fashion, I couldn't go more than 10 seconds without being distracted. This is the incorrect way of doing it.
Why?
Well, because look how much of the paint's just been sucked up by the tissue. That is actually right. You probably should put your paint on something other than a tissue.
Do you have any words of wisdom as to why you're dry brushing certain areas?
Booga booga booga! That is the scientific terms for painting with a dry brush.
What do you do?
Go put a highlight. Some Chris, a bloodido.
See, and most people say we don't translate our videos.
Yeah, I've just translated it into Spanish. The bloodido of the bloodido. All of this vigor is all just getting the base done. All I did was dry brush a bunch of different grays to get it lighter, and now I need to give it a little bit more color, so I'm going to use this Grip Charger Gray to spray into the shadowed areas of the base, and this is just a very quick and effective way to paint a base. The good thing there's only 2.5 hours left to paint the rest of the entire model. Usually when you spray that extra color like I showed you earlier to give some color to the grays that you've done, you lose a bit of the gray edges, and so I'll come back with a bit of deck tan and just tighten them up a bit. I also force dried the primed parts, so I can now do the Zenithal highlights. Using white. Why's the Queen's book over there? That is in fact a very good question, Mr. Groundeffected. Why is that Queen's book over there? Either way, I just want to tell you what's going on here, and also a little bit more about this video. I have not sped up any footage in this video at all. Everything is exactly to the time that I painted it. Obviously, I cut out some bits, otherwise this would be a 3-hour long video, and we don't want that. This video was sponsored by CA3D Studios. This is a Patreon over on the Patreon, which means you subscribe and you get a whole bunch of models. Genuinely, you get so many models, and they are absolutely high detailed sculpted models with some amazing cuts. These are guys who actually care about painters, and trust me, I've painted a lot of their models, so I know this already. I want you to go and check them out, and yes, you can also buy their models separately, so be sure to check out all the links and go on their Patreon and click on the links that send you to their cults page and all the other page. Just don't be a schmo, go look at the sponsor of this video, because they are definitely worth your money, and I wouldn't be telling you otherwise. So that's it for the sponsored section of this video. Thank you CA3D Studios for sponsoring yet another video. Is this dangerous?
How are you going to hang that up?
Like this. I'm just going to shove that neck stick.
It looks like you're flying.
Yeah. And with Lilo's body Zenithal and flying into my drawing mount, I can then move on to Zenithaling the head. End of story.
2 hours 25 left.
I'd like to use this distracted time to remind you that if you're watching this video on the toilet, click the subscribe button, and don't forget,
make sure to wash your hands.
Now with Lilo drying in the drying rack, it is time to obviously pay attention to putting some skin tones on this model. So I'm going to start out by at least painting them like a grape. Red. For some water. And I need this for some just fun. I can't... Oh, you see. It's twisting in there, so I can't actually twist it. Which means that it's actually already loose. Which is... how the frig am I gonna film this? Filming difficulties aside, I want to quickly tell you about what I'm doing here. I have mixed the violet red and a little bit of water, and as well as a tiny bit of flow improver to make sure that it doesn't block up, and it just flows a lot better with that flow improver in most cases. And so that's what I was doing in that previous shot. Now I'm going to spray this over everything from the top down. I'm going to try and avoid ever letting it go in the undershadow where the black is left over after doing the Zenithal highlight. And the reason for this is because we're creating volume, but what we're trying to do is use the dark of the black and the light of the white to really push that shadow and make it a little bit more of a contrast. This is an artistic technique whereby we're using a dark color and a light color to create contrast between things, thus making your eye tricked into thinking that there is a whole lot more detail than what you're actually seeing. Now the next step for me will then to take a red ink and I'll spray that into the shadows. This goes over all of the black, and what you will notice is this makes a very dark red over the black areas, but it most importantly tints those black areas to be red. I do not want black to be in the bottom when I'm spraying the actual skin tones. And obviously I want to leave these things to dry for a very good amount of time. They need to be fully dried. Let me quickly show you actually mixing up my skin tones. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put almost 50-50 of paint and water. I use a couple drops of flow improver just to make sure that this flows a little bit better, and the color that I used here is light brown. As you can see, this does not cover up the actual colors that are underneath it. A lot of times people mention in the comments that you put all of this effort in before you put the skin tones and then you just cover it up. Look very carefully, it is not covering it up at all. Yes, there are some areas that are getting fully covered, but that is by design. What we're trying to do, or at least to achieve, is to leave that pink underneath in certain areas. In the shadows of everything needs to be pink, and if you happen to go too far and paint a lot of paint of the skin tones over the top of the highlight areas, this isn't the absolute worst, because later on we can come back and fix that when we do the orcish dermis, but I will tell you about that when we get to that part. For now, it is just focusing on doing a Zenithal, but this time with the skin tone over the top of what you had set up earlier by putting the red and the pink down. Now this is not advisable, but sometimes I find that the light is a little bit weird inside of the booth, and I do tend to put it outside and just catch a few highlights here and there. I'm just catching some highlights And then I'm gonna thin that down. So before I move on to actually spraying the next skin tone color, what I did was I mixed it a little bit thicker than usual, and I'm going to spray just some highlight, very, very precise points with that color. But then I'm gonna thin it down a lot more, and I'm gonna spray it a lot more liberally over everything. And the reason for this exact procedure is because I'm pre-shading once again. I'm just making sure that where that absolute highlight is, it has a very bright spot to make sure it picks up. No way. There's no way to pick it up now, because I can't hold it and I can't put that. Oh no. I'm stuck here forever. A good thing that there isn't a timer going or anything like that, because this late into the challenge, it would be a disaster if we had any issues.
You're feeling comfortable about the time?
No! Spots. Don't show them that, because then they'll know that there's not perfect. Frankie, look, bro. Oh shit, dude. Just if we rub them off, if we just rub it off, no one will know. Just look. In a previous video, literally the last video before this one, I explained how to use your airbrush, and I myself did not follow my own instructions on how to use the airbrush, and I let the paint come out before I sprayed, and basically what ended up happening was I sprayed a load of spots of that light color all over the skin, and I just wiped it off with my finger before it dried. And of course, this next step is what kind of covered up any of those spots, and that's taking the orcish dermis. This is also the time where I can come back and any of those areas that I may have covered too much of the pink, I can then spray this orcish dermis just roughly into the shadow of that area, and it helps to make it look like I didn't forget to spray over the pink and I left some of the pink.
Is this just a form of masking?
No. Only masking I do is my weirdness from society. Okay, bro, but why are you actually wrapping up that base? And I will tell you for the exact reason why, and that is because I was just struggling to hold this model. But really, this is actually a great way for you to paint your model in the future if you have a large amount of one specific color and you need to get some highlights and shadows in the right places. Of course, shadows will be difficult from this angle, but highlights, super easy. So for these final highlights, I'm gonna just go back over the top with the model standing up. This way I have exactly where the highlight needs to be, because I can only spray from the top where the highlights are. I'm now going to take a little bit of white ink and mix that with what is left of the highlight skin that I had used, and this will make a very, very bright color. And I've turned my air compressor right down so I can precisely place these things in the highlighted areas: the forehead, the shoulders, the tops of the breasts, on perhaps the thighs, the areas above the knees, things like that. The annoying thing about skin tones generally, not always, but specifically white skin tones, is that to get all this volume out of it, you are going to lose some of the saturation. But I have a trick for that, and that is using yellow ink. I put a couple of drops of yellow ink and I literally fill the rest of my ink cap up with water, and then I spray that over the entire model from a distance. Look how far my airbrush is away from the model. This means I'm using the broadest amount of the airbrush spray I possibly can. For those that are wondering, I use a 0.5mm needle and nozzle, so it's quite a large one, and that means I can do these nice large area sprays. Speaking of large areas, we're using the same technique this time, but to put a semi-gloss or a satin varnish over all of the skin. Quickly, while I remember, the reason I use the yellow is because it tints all the rest of the pinks a nice orangey color. Now Frankie is going to make us a cup of coffee, and hopefully this is the smoothest ride to the end of the finish line. No! Sakes, bro. Bro, I dropped it. Now look, she's got an elbow bruise. I have to fix that now. So I'll take some of that. As annoying as this is, it's a good opportunity for me to explain. I'm not even angry. Just disappointed. Like a professional wouldn't do this kind of behavior. All I'm saying. Obviously that's not true. This happens to everybody. We all make mistakes, but I'm glad to have made this mistake so I could show you exactly how I fix it, because this comes up often. Now she's gonna have freaking yellow elbow. I don't need to use the entire range of colors, just a couple: the main color, the highlight, and the shadow.
How are you feeling about it?
What is left to do is paint a bunch of bandages and some hair and eyes and mouth. And teeth inside of that mouth, as well as a tongue that's open so you can see the tongue too, which really not going to be fun. So I'm going to try to give that thing a little bit more time to dry. whilst I quickly painted the Lilu has a red color hair, and so I'm going to start out with this burnt red, and this is going to give me a good base so that I can come back and spray a bit of a brighter red on it later, and also dry brush just very loosely to bring in a little bit more details. Again, this is a fast and easy way to paint a model that still gives impressive results, at least in my opinion. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I'm stressing about the time a little bit. And even though I have got my own time limit set, this is not something that everyone else will have. I still want to make sure I cover some bases, and so a little quick tip is to take some Orcish dermis, thin it down a lot on your wet palette, and paint the toenails with this. This will give a decent enough looking toenail to make it not look stupid, but at the same time, you put in that extra detail. Now I'm going to take some deck tan, and I'm going to paint all of her bandages. Annoyingly, they cannot be shaded. And they can be, of course, but not for our instance, and this is a good thing for me to show you that not everything needs to be fully rendered in order for your model to still look good at the end. So I'm purposefully not going to put any shadows on the bandages or whatever these white straps are on her, and this is for the exact reason to show you that you don't have to render absolutely everything on your model. There's some things that you can literally just paint solid and get away with it, as long as you paint them neat enough. I'm gonna say, and with all my heart, I did not paint this very neat, but it still is neat enough, and that just shows you that you don't have to be precise, you just have to be close enough. In theory, that's done, but that's because I don't have time. I would probably want to put a shadow on that.
So with 8 minutes left, what have you got left to do?
I need to do eyes and a mouth, and I don't know if that's even possible. I may not have known if it was possible or not, but I'm sure as hell gonna give it a go. The first thing I'm going to do is brighten up that hair, and to do that very quickly, I'm literally going to spray with a low air pressure some red ink over the top of the hair. And notice the angle that I'm using. It means that at no point the overspray is too close to going over the skin, because a disaster now would actually be a disaster. But luckily I didn't have any of those, and I can move on to adding a little bit of a blush on the cheeks. And to do this, I will be using a fluorescent pink, and again the same low air pressure as I'm doing for all of this airbrushing at this point, because I need that control. And notice how close my airbrush is to the model. I added a eyeshadow by using Grip Charger Grey, and this again is a low air pressure because for reasons obviously that I don't want to have splats all over my model. I'm going to quickly throw in some Magos Purple into the eye sockets because this will darken them, and when I leave over these little pink areas around the edge of the eyes, it just helps to make it outline the eye and make it look a little bit more believable as an actual eye. For the lips, I'm going to mix Magos Purple with a little bit of Ball Red, and this is going to help create a nice red lipstick kind of color, I guess. That's the only way to describe this, and using the red on its own would be way too bright and vibrant and just look really weird, so I'm not going to do that. I quickly used that burnt red that I used for the base of the hair to paint a load of little strokes over the eyebrows, thus creating some eyebrow looking eyebrows on the top of her forehead. Now obviously this is a challenge, so of course I'm going to be doing things as simple as I can, but still trying to add as much detail as I can. The aim of this challenge is to just prove that even with a very minimal amount of time, granted I have a lot more experience, it still shows that you can, within one weekend, probably paint yourself a model. It doesn't have to be precisely perfect, but it can still look good enough, and this is giving you the practice that you need. And realistically, painting these models as fast as I usually do is what's gotten me to the point that I can actually now ironically paint these models as fast as I do. So of course, your first few times trying something like this, don't expect to be able to do this within 3 hours. I get that, and I'm not going to sugarcoat any of this, but basically it's possible to do this quite fast, and this video is hopefully the proof of this. But also, more importantly, hopefully this video actually gives you a bit more insight into the actual skin tone paintings and just how simple they really are. Even though they seem complicated, it's not that complicated at all. I'm gonna now take some highlight skin color and paint that on the inside, the scleras of the eyes, and if I had more time I would paint the edges to make them look more rounded, but we don't.
Got a minute left.
I think we're gonna do it, bro. I'm gonna be able to throw pancakes and my kids all in one. With literally only a minute left on the clock, I've got to really put my ass into high gear now and quickly paint the pupils of this model. These pupils are facing downwards. She is meant to look super surprised, and so this is helpful for us because that means that actually the more surprised the model looks from being a weird painting, the better actually, because it's still going to look like a surprised model. So realistically, at this point, I can't really mess this up, surely. I'm going to paint the green first and then the light brown on the inside of that to create a hazel looking eye. Imagine I made a massive mistake right now. I can imagine, but please don't, because that will make the video so much longer. Using a hairdryer that's stolen from my wife, I dry these parts as quickly as I can so that I can move on to painting the black of the pupils, and this I already have black on my palette, so of course that saved me some time having to pour it out. I'm going to put this very centered in the eyeball so that it doesn't look squint. I need a white. White is for the specular highlight. This is what creates the illusion that the eyeball itself is wet, but don't forget, it's always advisable to paint a bit of a gloss clear over the eyes and lips as well. Done. Done. Done.
Are you proud of yourself?
No. You know what? If I did that, and I just had an evening in the evening at home from work, I'd be happy. I'd be like, you know what? I accomplished something.
Yeah,
That's
if
it.
you can bang one of those out in an evening, that's a pretty
Productive
pretty good
evening.
thing to do.
That's all you need to do. And then you can then next evening come back and tighten some stuff up. But at least that's the basic. I mean, that's good enough, right?
Yeah.
Excellento. Let's go through pancakes and kids. Okay, so I made it in time. I did it in 3 hours, and yes, granted, I have 25 years plus of professional artistry behind me, because that's what my job has been. Sure, I get that. But what I want you to take from this video is not that, oh, someone who's got a load of experience is able to do it really fast and really well. That's not what you're taking from this video at all. Hopefully you picked up some stuff in the technique sections where I showed you stuff, but more importantly, I just want you to see that you need to just give it a go. Like, literally, you will not be good unless you start. Like, it's impossible to even get close to good without starting in the first place. So you need to make a few terrible mistakes before you start making good decisions. I think that's the most important thing out of this. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe the most important thing is the reminder to wash your hands after the toilet, but either way, what you need to do now is leave a subscribe. Well, just click subscribe, click like as well. If you haven't subscribed already, I think like 34% of you haven't even subscribed yet. What are you doing, man? Subscribe, otherwise your breath will stink. That is a fact. It's scientific. Just click the subscribe button and share this video with your granny. Leave some words of comments down below. And of course, thank you very much to everybody who watches. But very importantly, thank you to the Patreons for helping make this possible. And if you didn't like anything you saw in this video, well, we already know that if you don't like it, you can now f*** off.